everyone. It's Lacey Sculls from VH1's Rock of Love. And this is Talk of Love, the new podcast. This isn't just reality. This is real life. What's up, everybody? It's Lacey motherfucking Sculls. And this is episode 23 of Talk of Love. I am excited for today's episode because I'm having Kristy Joe from Rock of Love Season 2 and Charm School with Sharon Osbourne. She will be on here in a few minutes, and I just really love her. She's such an awesome person, so I'm excited that she's going to be joining me on the podcast today. So I have a pretty funny story that I want to share with you guys that I was just thinking about the other day. I was thinking about Kristy Joe's season of Rock of Love Season 2, and it made me think of this story, which I want to share with you guys. So when I had just moved to Los Angeles from Dallas, Texas. Dallas is where I grew up. And I moved to Los Angeles 2004. And the very end of 2004. And then we filmed Rock of Love in 2007. So around 2005 was really when I was starting to make friends and meet people in Los Angeles. I really didn't know very many people when I first moved there. And also, the other thing that I was dealing with was not only was I in a new city with not a lot of friends, but like my mom had just died, and it really just like pulled the rug out from under me, and it was really, really devastating. And I just went into a really dark place, a very deep, dark depression. And I basically just laid on my couch for like several months and just felt sorry for myself and mourned her death. And I got to a point where I was like, all right, I gotta like get my shit together, and like, try to be a human being again. And one of the things, if you guys get to know me, my whole thing about having like a full life is by having lots of different kinds of experiences. So if I have like any bit of money, I'm not necessarily going to buy something. I don't need to have something to hold in my hands, but I would rather spend that money on some sort of wild, crazy experience. So I think that I had been watching Shark Week on Animal Planet or something like that. For some reason, I had sharks on my brain. And I know that sounds really weird, but I had seen or heard about this company that was based out of California and would take paying customers down to Mexico on a boat and go out to the Guadalupe Islands to go shark diving. So I was like, that sounds fucking amazing. And so I sought out this company, and I had a little bit of money saved up, and I was like, I'm going to do this like shark diving thing. I was really excited about it. So I booked my trip, and it was in the summertime, I think of 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. And I booked the trip, and I didn't really know anybody, and I didn't have anybody to go with. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll just go by myself and I'll make friends while I'm there. So after I booked the trip, a guy called me. I'm not going to tell you who yet. A guy called me, and he told me that he was a photographer, and he basically goes on every single one of these shark trips. So he kind of like organizes the whole group. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I Googled who he is, and I'm like, oh, he's a rock and roll guy. He's like a photographer, a videographer, and he's done like some really cool shit. So he did like videos for Marilyn Manson and for Ozzy Osbourne and Tool and photography for all these bands as well. And he's just like a really, really cool guy that just knows everybody. I'm like, and so the reason he was on this trip is because he also photographs great white sharks and sells the photographs, and he's really talented. So he was going to be on the trip. So he was just letting me know and introducing himself, and I'm like, that's fucking cool. Okay. And he's like, yeah, everybody that goes on these trips is really cool. It's all like rock and roll people. And I'm like, really? I thought it was all just going to be like nerds and me. Well, I'm a nerd as well. But yeah, so then a couple of days before the trip, we had to drive down to San Diego from Los Angeles and get on a bus and then go down to do the shark diving trip in Mexico. And so he called me up and he was like, hey, I have a buddy that needs a ride to San Diego. Will you give him a ride? I'm like, sure, no problem. Who's your buddy? And he goes, oh, Danny Lohner. Danny Lohner was the bass player of my all-time favorite band, Nine Inch Nails. And my favorite Nine Inch Nails album is The Downward Spiral. And Danny Lohner played bass on that album and toured with Nine Inch Nails for years. So he was like, a bass god to me. And so he told me that I was going to be driving Danny Lohner down. I was like, holy shit, that is amazing. So, and also Danny Lohner is like a bit of a weird guy. He's really nice and really cool, but he's just like a weird, musician introvert type. So I pick him up and he gets in the car and I'm just like freaking out that I'm driving Danny Lohner. And so in my head, I was like, giving myself little rules. I was super starstruck. I'm like, well, don't ask him too much about Trent Reznor. Don't ask him too much about Nine Inch Nails because he probably gets those questions all the time, And so I was like, I'm just not going to ask him about that. So he gets in the car and literally within 5 minutes, he's like, I introduced myself and he's like, so tell me everything about Rock of Love. I was like, you watched Rock of Love? And he was like, hell yeah, that show was amazing. You girls were crazy. I was like, yeah, we were. And so I spent the whole drive from Los Angeles to San Diego telling Danny Lohner from Nine Inch Nails all about Rock of Love. It was such a trip. It was so wild. And it ended up being a really amazing, like unforgettable trip swimming in the cage with these great white sharks off the coast of Mexico. It was amazing. So the reason I'm telling you this story is because fast forward to 2008, I believe is the year that Rock of Love Season 2 was airing. And so I'm watching Rock of Love 2 just from a fan perspective. And out on one of the episodes, out comes a guy named Dean Carr. Dean Carr was on the show and he was doing the challenge where the girls had to do videos. And Dean Carr was the guy who organized that whole Great White Shark trip and who asked me to drive Danny Lohner from Los Angeles down to San Diego. So I was like, holy shit, Dean Carr, what are you doing on my TV right now? And Bret introduced him as being a really great photographer and videographer, and he judged that challenge. And I just thought that was really, really, really cool because I was not expecting to see this guy on my TV set on Rock of Love. So it's just so wild to me how, small the world can be sometimes and how different universes overlap with each other. It's just so wild. So that was a trip for me. That was pretty cool. So anyway, so speaking of Rock of Love Season 2, I am really excited for my next guest. She's so awesome. She's such a rad person. And I know you're going to be excited to hear from her. So please welcome Kristy Jo. Kristy Jo, what's up, girl? So nice to see you.
It's so good to see you too. It's been forever. It's like 10 years.
It's been forever. You look great.
Thank you. So you, as usual.
Oh, thank you, darling. Yeah, it's, it's been, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw you. I think the last time we saw each other was either Rhode Island or it was Las Vegas. It was one of those, they paid gigs where we go and like host a party or whatever.
The tattoo convention.
The tattoo convention. Yes. In Rhode Island, I think Bret Michaels' band was performing and a bunch of other bands. It was really fun though.
There's a lot of people there that day.
It was insane. Big John was there. And who else? I think Destiny was with us and
Jessica.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun. But anyway, how have you been? What have you been up to since the shows? Are you keeping busy with career stuff? Are you still involved in television? Are you with anybody? Do you have a significant other? Do you have kids? Let's talk about what you've been up to since the shows.
Where do I start? Well, I do have 4 children, so they keep me super busy. I work full time. I'm fostering 6 cats right now.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I'm all about the animal stuff.
Yes, my girlfriends are calling me the crazy cat lady. They're like, you're going to start getting cats.
That's awesome. So 4 kids, wow, how old are they?
So my oldest is 17. Well, he'll be 17 in August. The twins just turned 11, and then the baby turned 7. They're both August babies too.
Wow, you're a busy lady.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what have you been doing career-wise since the shows?
So actually, before the show, I was always in lending. I don't know if you knew that about me. I was a portfolio underwriter, and I was always in mortgages. And then as that kind of like took a tank, I went out and I went into modeling, and then now I'm in technology.
That's really cool. Yeah, you were saying that you work for GoDaddy, right?
Yes.
That's cool though, because that just shows that you are a really well-rounded person. I mean, anybody who is pretty and can do tech, that's unheard of.
I'm kind of nerdy. I've always been a nerd, but I hide it well.
That's pretty good. I gotta say, I'm lucky if I can set up like the stereo system at home. So it's impressive. So let's dive into everything Rock of Love, Charm School related, because there is a lot to unpack. And, obviously you did a different season of Rock of Love than I did, but I felt like you and I got to know each other pretty well on Charm School, which was cool. And but let's start with how did you end up getting into Rock of Love? Like, were you doing television stuff before that, or did it just happen kind of randomly? How did you get into that?
So I was actually on a Playboy TV shoot. I was filming something like girls doing stuff. I don't know. I think we were working on cars or something.
Yeah.
Something stupid. And my producer was like, hey, I'm filming across the way. Why don't you do a screen test? And I was like, what's it for? He's like, oh, some rock star. He's doing a love show. I'm like, oh, that's stupid. I'm like, well, I just split up with my ex, so let's do it. So I walked like across the way, and they hand me all this paperwork. I'm like, why are they asking such personal stuff? Like, what do you want to know? It's none of your business. So I'm like, all right, I'll fill it out. And then we do the screen test, and I didn't hear back for a couple of months. Then all of a sudden I get this random call, and they're like, hey, you were picked. Here's your contract.
Oh, wow.
Remember that long 100-page contract we had to sign?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, basically you were signing away.
Here's
like,
your rights.
Yeah. Your left kidney, your firstborn son, all goes to them. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the whole Playboy thing, because that is something that, it's funny because I know that Taya from season 3, right? Yeah. I think she was involved in Penthouse, and she like very much let it be known. And you were not as vocal about that. I feel like
I knew Taya before she did the show. We shot with She started in Playboy first, and then she went over to Penthouse.
Oh,
Penthouse offered me a contract too, and that was a little too much for me.
It was a little.
I was like, Playboy is as far as I go. It's still classy. It's still.
That makes sense, but I will tell you, unless I was living under a rock of love, I had to. I actually didn't know that you were involved in Playboy. And I think that you're just like a little bit more humble about it than other people. You weren't like blasting it every chance you got, which I think is cool. But I also think it's cool that you were involved in Playboy to begin with. I think that's really cool. How did that all happen? Was that something you set out to be a part of, or did they reach out to you, or how did that happen?
One of my girlfriends was trying out, and I was being supportive, and I actually got picked and she didn't. So that was super awkward.
Yeah. Wow. How was she about that?
No, she was cool. I mean, I brought her back to like do Playboy golf with me and some other events, so she got to experience it. And there's my cat. I have to let my cat
out. You're a kitty.
He's not letting cat. Okay, he's the boss. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm surrounded by boys. No, so I got picked, she didn't. And then, in modeling, the women are really ruthless and they're kind of vicious.
I've heard
and in Playboy, it's like a sisterhood because it's like, oh, you've already made it. And so everybody was super nice and they were like family. So I didn't really see anything wrong with it until I went back into the corporate world and everybody saw me naked. And I'm like, okay, this is awkward.
Well, you just got to go, oh, well, fuck it, Did you have a hard time going into the corporate world with that being your background, or were people pretty open-minded with you about it?
I feel like there's always been like two parts to me. Like I'm very analytical and left brain, and then I'm also creative. So I feel like I've had this like battle between the two, and it's hard to transition sometimes from one to the other. But let me answer that. People don't take you seriously. They think you're a bimbo or you're an idiot, and so you're constantly having to prove yourself. That part's frustrating.
That was going to be my guess. And also, given the fact that you are pretty, and I would imagine that it's totally shitty, but just that alone of you being pretty is going to make people doubt you if it's a, analytical kind of company or something like that. So that the fact that you're pretty plus, this past of doing, sexy modeling shoots and stuff like that, it's impressive that you were able to get past that and you were able to prove yourself.
I've always just let my numbers like speak for themselves or my work, and that's what I've always done. And I just kind of keep my mouth quiet and let people talk, and then I just prove myself. And
that's awesome. That's really cool. Did you grow up in Los Angeles?
I grew up in Newport Beach,
okay.
Born and raised Southern California, and had three of my kids there. And then I moved out to Arizona.
Okay. Did you always know that you wanted to do modeling or television or something in entertainment?
I've been approached since I was like 15, and I did Bumble and Bumble. I did a commercial for them. And just random modeling since I was little.
That's
but
awesome.
I don't really take it seriously. I feel like, I did the shoot. That was cool. And I move on.
Okay. So you just look at it as like, it just pays the bills, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So then how did you get into like tech company stuff?
So my ex-husband and I owned a brokerage together, and I used to run all of our websites, our CRM, and I do web crawling, and I created all of our landing pages for marketing and like Google Analytics and Google Ads. And so when my girlfriend was over at GoDaddy, she was like, hey, come over, you'll like it. I'm like, all right, I have experience, and you're working way less hours, because I was doing 14 hours in the lending industry. So I took the jump.
Wow.
I had to learn tech talk, which is really weird. I know what I'm doing, but I don't know the language.
I got to say, I have been really impressed with the majority of, if not all of the guests I've had on Talk of Love. I'm really impressed with how well-rounded everybody has been, because I think a lot of viewers who are fans of Rock of Love or Flavor of Love or any of these of Love shows, they kind of look at the cast of characters as these sort of one-dimensional characters and forget that they like exist outside of that, basically, But what's cool is not only have people done these shows and they've done other things within entertainment, but a lot of them have like really cool, interesting careers that have nothing to do with that. A lot of them are really educated. Like Sam was on here a couple of months ago. She has like an incredible, impressive level of education. So it's interesting to me. And I feel like you fall into that category as well.
Yeah, I went to Harvard Extension after charm school. Remember, I was like, I want to win so that I can pay for my schooling.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back. I hadn't finished my degree or anything. And actually, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, they helped pay for my schooling and a lot of like the finance. And so that's how I did Harvard Extension.
Damn,
so I have like 2 brain cells up there.
That's awesome. That is really impressive. That's so cool. I love that. So once you got invited to do Rock of Love, did you know it was going to be Bret Michaels? Because I felt like some of the girls knew, but other ones did not know.
I thought it was going to be Tommy Lee. Because we were guessing, I'm like, well, does he have a disease? Like, am I going to get
Does he have a disease?
I'm a germaphobe anyway, so with everything that's going on with COVID, I'm like, yes, this is my time to shine.
Oh my God, you're a germaphobe and you went on Rock of Love?
Did you see the segment? I made him wipe his mouth down, and I was like, do you have wet wipes?
That's amazing. I remember that. That's so funny. So Tommy Lee would have been really fun on Rock of Love. He would have been a character.
That'd be awkward with Pamela,
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever met Tommy Lee?
No, I've hung out with Pamela and Carmen Electra a few times.
I actually met Tommy Lee a couple of times, and he's really, really nice. Yeah, he's really tall. He's really wild, but he's actually really nice. Can I tell you my Tommy Lee story really quick?
Yes.
Okay, so this was actually a Brandy C connection. So Brandy C was hanging out with some people that were friends with Tommy Lee. And so I guess Tommy Lee was having like a Super Bowl party. I mean, this was a long time ago. This was like 8 years ago. Tommy Lee was having a Super Bowl party. He invited me and Brandy C and through Brandy C's mutual friends. At the last minute, Brandy C said she couldn't go, but she was like, but Lacey, you're still invited. You should go. And he only lived like maybe 20 minutes away from me in Los Angeles. So I was like, I don't know anybody. And she's like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just go. And I was like, all right. So I go to this Super Bowl party, and I thought there was going to be like, 50 people there, 100 people there. There was literally 8 people there. And it was like all dudes and me. And I'm like, this is weird.
Awful.
It was really, and I'm not even like a sports person. So I was like, I'm looking forward to the halftime performance. But I got to say, everybody there was super, super cool, super, super respectful, very friendly and like warm. And at one point, Tommy Lee was like making everybody, this is so surreal. Tommy Lee was making everybody dinner. And so we go into the kitchen and he had like served some sort of meat dish. And I was like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I don't eat meat. Like I have to say no to Tommy Lee. And he was like, oh, my bad. And so he like goes and opens up his cupboard. He was like digging through it. He's like, I have soup. This is vegetarian soup. Would you like the soup? I've got this. This is vegetarian. Would you like this? And he was just
Pam is a vegetarian.
I know.
Well, yeah.
And then afterwards, he made us all hot fudge sundaes. And I was like, Tommy Lee made me a hot fudge sundae.
Amazing. I love that.
Was cool. It was really cool. So that's my Tommy Lee story.
I'm kind of like, I was obsessed with how Pamela and Tommy were so in love with each other. You can't really top that. So I'm glad it wasn't him.
I agree. And Pamela, I have respect for because, I mean, everybody says she's like the nicest person in the world. And of course, she's an animal rights activist as well. So I respect her for that. Yeah, exactly. So what did you think when you found out it was Hi Kitty? We're going to be interviewing Kristy Joe's cat now.
Start of a crazy cat show.
There you go. I like it. So what did you think of... Wow.
Hold on.
This is my favorite interview so far. We've got Kristy Joe. We've got Kristy Joe's cat.
Stop, seriously.
We've got Kristy Joe's pussy. I knew it wouldn't take very many episodes.
You always have to protect the pussies.
Kristy Joe, get your pussy out of the camera. What's so great is there's people who are actually listening to the podcast that like on Spotify that don't have the video. They only have the audio. So I'm saying like, Kristy Joe, put your pussy away. And they have no idea what I'm talking about.
I love it. Pussy's a mess.
Yes. Kristy Joe, you have a really hairy pussy.
No, not really. It's fine.
All right. Well, Kristy Joe puts her pussy away. This podcast is already going downhill so fast.
Yes.
We just offended.
You said no slut shaming.
I know. No slut shaming here. We are proud sluts on Talk of Love. So, okay.
I'm actually not. That's the sad part is people have this conception like, oh, you did Playboy, you must be like really wild. And I'm like, no, I'm kind of boring.
It's interesting that happens a lot. I mean, there's a lot of girls who either pose in risque magazines or, girls I've known who are strippers. They like end up being the most sort of reserved people that they're, and I never did any of that, but I was like out banging everybody when I was single. So, but I'm married now and I love
I'm a relationship person. Like I love being in a relationship. I'll be a slut for the guy I'm with, but
yeah,
I'm not a prude.
That's a good girlfriend. How do you think I ended up getting married? How do you think I landed a guy? It wasn't because he saw my wonderful personality on Rock of Love.
That's why I had so many restraining orders.
All right, we got a lot to unpack with all that. Let's start with Bret Michaels. Okay. So what were your thoughts about Bret Michaels? Were you a Poison fan when you first joined the show?
So I have this thing, and this is not a made-up thing. I forget people's names almost immediately, and dates. It's like a total mind block. And they're like, oh, Poison. I'm like, who? What? So I'm like, Googling. But like every rose has a sword. I'm like, oh, amazing. Yeah, that's great. I don't watch TV or read. I'm a full dork. Yeah. So I didn't know.
So, but you knew who he was once you saw him, and you obviously knew the song.
Yes.
Okay.
And he is such a nice guy. And come to find out, we were actually neighbors.
Oh,
and
really?
So Destiny, myself, and Kristy all kind of have a similar look.
Yeah, that's true.
It was really awkward because he actually lived right. I looked at his house. I was actually going to purchase that property that was behind him. And so I'm describing his house. He's like, have you been to my house? I'm like, no, I looked at your property before.
Oh, that's
so
crazy.
My house was around the corner. And every time I would go somewhere, they're like, Kristy. I'm like, wrong, Kristy.
Oh, that's really crazy. Is this in Arizona?
Yes.
That's
His house was like, my house was right here and his house was like around the corner. And where I worked at US Bank, he would drive down like almost every day.
Oh, that's crazy. What a small world.
Yes.
Oh, that's really wild. So when you were on Rock of Love, I felt like there was a lot of drama on your season. And I mean, there was drama on my season, but it was like kind of a different kind of drama. I felt like there was a lot of emotions running high on your season. And and so I would say a lot of the issue, there was a lot of issues between you and Daisy, and then Destiny was involved in that too. And can you kind of break that down for everybody?
Sure. So Bret, in his genius mind, decided to tell everybody that he was attracted to me and that he liked me in front of everybody. So from that day forward, everybody hated me. So nobody gave me a chance. And then on the board, I thought it was really weird. So my picture was like at the top, and then you know how we got like all of the backstage passes? They were all lined up. Mine was at the top. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Am I being picked? What the hell?
Yeah.
What is this crap? So yeah, I just felt like, and a lot of the girls were super crazy at the time when they were all in their 20s, and I'm not judging, but it was a lot for me.
I'm sure.
I wasn't used to girls being so catty. So being around that nonstop, and then the hours, because they would keep us up till like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then a new crew would come in at like 7 in the morning, and we're just exhausted and tired, and we just wanted to sleep and stop drinking. So it was just a big, like, emotional roller coaster.
It's funny because everybody that I interview, and including my own personal experience, that is always the common theme of like how exhausted they made us. And I feel like, I mean, obviously there were so many things done on purpose to get the most out of us from an emotional standpoint. I mean, obviously having no email and no radio and no magazines and no books and no phone calls and no music and all of that, it's crazy to have all of that taken away. And then on top of that, you're up till 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you're up at 8 in the morning, and you get 4 hours of sleep every day. And then, you're sleep deprived, but then there's so much alcohol and you're bored. So then you drink, and it's just like, it was like
There's no music. There was no music.
That was crazy for me too. Yeah. And not
there's another thing. There's no TV, there's no music, there's no entertainment. We were each other's entertainment. And then when Bret would leave, we're like, what the fuck are we going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I guess we'll do shots.
Exactly. We're just total recipe for disaster.
Yeah, or a recipe for an amazing television show. One or the other, or both. But did you feel like you had genuine feelings for Bret at any point? What were your feelings towards him?
I think he's a really great guy. I didn't know that he had a real relationship. So for me, that was kind of like, ew, gross. Why are you doing this?
It's funny how that's
but I know it's like a rock star life. Like, some people have open relationships, so I shouldn't judge. But for me personally, that wasn't my lifestyle. So for other women, if they're okay with it, then more power to you. But for me, I'm a one woman, one man kind of girl. So.
Yeah, it's I've never done the open relationship thing either. That sounds terrible to me, actually. But yeah.
Or like a threesome with someone you love. Can you imagine? That'd be awful.
Yeah, that sounds like not
fun. Her hair, turn her off.
Yeah, my husband's like side bitch would be in the pool constantly. It would not be good. I'd be like, have you seen Rock of Love? I'll do that to you.
I'm murdering you in your sleep.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's hard with all that drama constantly around you. And then, from my perspective as being a viewer of your season, it did seem like certain people were definitely forming real feelings for him. Like, it seemed like Daisy was really, forming feelings for him. Amber. So yeah,
Amber.
That was a lot. What was that?
Amber.
Yeah.
I feel like she really did genuinely fall for him, and it was hard to kind of tell her, like, hey, this is the reality. Like, it was a show.
Yeah. I think that was the case for several of the girls. It was the whole thing was kind of a big mind fuck, and especially for the girls that were really into him, it was crazy. But so are you?
No, I don't want to talk trash. He is very charming, and when you get to know him, he's sweet and he's down to earth, and he can sing. Like, he has all of the good qualities, so it's easy to get attached to him, even just as a human. So I can understand how people would fall for him, but long term and what it really was, like the reality versus the show, there's two different worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I am a really, really big fan of Bret Michaels, not just the entertainer, but the person. And it's funny because throughout all of these years, so many people have tried so hard to get me to talk shit about him. And I really, like, even if I wanted to, which I don't know why I would, but even if I wanted to, I really have nothing bad to say. I felt like all like the mind fuckery that happened was on the end of the producers. They were the ones that did that, and he was just going along with like making a really fun, wild, sexy show, as far as I'm concerned. So did you feel like the producers?
He has a good heart, and he does a lot of things in the community and for other people. Like, he's just a genuinely good dude. Would I date him? No. But do I like him as a person? Yes, I think he's a good human.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. So I was going to ask you, did you feel like the producers fucked with you personally very much? Like, how did you feel you came across? How did you feel you were portrayed? Was anything edited differently than how it really was? What are your thoughts on all of that as far as the producers go?
Am I allowed to be honest now that it's over?
Hang on, let me ask.
Is there a clause? Is there like a 10-year clause where they can like sue you?
Oh, fuck them. Fuck that. No, it's we're good. You're totally good.
So I tried to leave on many occasions. So when you see me crying, I wanted to leave. I was so over it. I'm like, get me the fuck out of this place. So like, no, if you leave, we can sue you up to $1 million. And I had property, I had my business. And I'm like, fuck this. Like,
oh, wow.
Really? I'm like, these whips are nuts. I want to get the fuck out of here. I'm tired. I hate everybody. The lights are bright. Let me go home. So there's literally the cameras, and I started like screaming at them, and I look crazy. I'm like, I want to fucking leave. I hate you. I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Because, we're in Hollywood Hills, and like, you're trapped on the set, and you feel like a caged animal.
It's weird not getting to ever leave. People are like, oh my God, you lived in this big, beautiful mansion. I'm like, no, you can never leave.
I went home, and I know it sounds weird, but because you're used to the lights and camera being around and looking for mics, I literally went home and I was like, is there a camera on? Is there mics? Like, you go home paranoid.
Other people have said that. You're not the first person who've said that. That's so crazy. And also, it's interesting that they actually threatened you, because Sam from my season tried to go home on multiple occasions too. And she was kind of having a meltdown and a freak out. And she tried to leave, and they sort of like just gently like talked her into staying. And, but with you, they like point blank threatened you with like losses.
Yes.
Damn.
Literally. And I'm like, because you're so tired, you're so exhausted, and you're just like, I hate you. I hate your face. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
Oh, wow.
But I love you, Bret.
That's crazy. Wow. So how far did you make it again? You made it to like the final 5. Is that right?
I think it was before the exes came.
Okay.
And my ex is like big. He's a big dude. And I'm like, I'm gonna go home. Like, just send me home. Trust me. And on our season, I don't know if you know, I think one of the girls was shot. Was from Arizona, who was going to come on the show.
She was shot?
Yeah.
Like one of the possible contestants?
Yes.
No, I did not know. That's insane. I've never heard that. What happened?
So yeah, it was a really big thing in Arizona, and she was supposed to come on the show, and I don't know if he was like a cop or something. It was something really twisted and weird, and I was like, my ex is crazy. Like, he'll go like postal, and they're like, nope, send her home, because that had just happened in Arizona. One of the contestants who was supposed to come on, he shot her.
Oh my God. And so who was it that shot the contestant? You said it was, did you say it was
her
like
husband?
Holy shit. So you're like, watch out, my man might shoot everybody here if you don't let Chrissy Joe go? Like that?
crazy. I'm crazy. Let me go. I should have just played the crazy card like the whole time.
That's amazing. Wow. That's a good negotiation tactic.
Yeah, super. I was like, hey, let her go. And like, we kept in contact afterwards. And then like, he called me and I was like, I think you're a nice guy, but in a relationship, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. That makes it difficult to have a relationship when they're already in another relationship.
You want to travel?
Crazy.
You want to go to the shows with me? I'm like, no.
Wow. That's so wild. So tell us about the whole, I know like the topic of restraining order with one of your exes came up, and I know Bret was a little bit concerned about that. What was the whole story behind that?
So my ex-husband and I, we should have never been married, but we had a kid together, and my dad was like, if you don't get married, you're gonna have a bastard child. I guess we're getting married.
Okay.
And it was just, he was bipolar and an alcoholic, and you just can't fix that.
It's hard to fix.
Yeah. I tried to make it work for many years. I took care of our son. Like, I was the breadwinner of our house, and it just didn't work. And when we did the divorce, he came back. He kept coming back, and I had to get a restraining order.
Oh.
He wouldn't leave so long.
That's
it was like the highs and lows of bipolar. So
I hear your pussy again. Your pussy is purring, Kristy Joe. My audio guy's gonna be like, God damn it.
All the men.
So was this the one that came onto the show?
No. So I've been married twice.
Okay.
After my first husband, I met my second husband at work, and we were together on and off for almost 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Portion of my life. He's an amazing man, good person, like my family. It just sometimes it dies off and doesn't work out. So he, however, has a big temper, and he's a big dude. And I was like, nope, let's not have him come on at all. Wow. He's very territorial, and I knew if he came on, we would just...
That's so crazy. So what about one of the scenes that really stood out to me, and I think it stood out to everybody, was Aubrey's exit on your season of Rock of Love. She did a really big dramatic thing where I guess she thought that you were going home, and she was trying to like throw herself on the sword in a very dramatic way. So let's talk about your friendship with Aubrey back then, and what was that? I felt like Aubrey almost was kind of girl crushing on you. Was that whole thing strange to you? Because it was strange to me from a viewer perspective.
So that happens a lot with women. I'm very loving and sweet, and sometimes they get like girl crushes. But I mean, I'm not bisexual. I have been with women, but I'm bisexual. And sometimes I felt like with her, she was a little sorry.
I'm sorry, your audio broke up. You said sometimes with her it was a little bit what?
I felt like she might have been bisexual, and she was kind of more attracted to me more than a friend. So it was weird at some points throughout the show.
Yeah, that was the perspective from me as a viewer as well. And not that there would be anything wrong with that, but if one person is going that direction and the other one is not reciprocating, then it gets weird. So, but the whole dramatic exit as well. What were your thoughts? I mean, what was going through your head when all of that was going down?
I didn't know that she was offering herself up. Like, oh, I'm just going to volunteer. Like, 'cause you're so in love with him. I don't know. It was just the whole thing was weird. Everybody's emotions were super high, and then she just decided to throw herself on the cross and sacrifice herself for me.
Part of me wondered if she knew that she was going home, and so she was trying to take the power out of it, or what? Or did she really think that you were going home and she was trying to take your spot somehow?
I don't know. You don't know what's going on through people's brains or minds or what's going on. Yeah, I don't know.
That was a crazy moment. So did you talk to Aubrey much after the show got done taping?
We hung out a few times, but her and I didn't really click a lot after. She was kind of hot and cold, very emotional, kind of moody. So I was just like, oh, this isn't going to work.
You're like, and done.
Well, I mean, Aubrey's a lot. She's a lot. he's a big personality, so you have to do it in small doses.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I would say that's totally a good way to describe it. Are there any of the girls from your season or from any of the seasons that you stay in touch with?
I was in touch with one for a very long time. We were good friends for several years, and then we just kind of fell out.
Well, it's hard also when everybody, gets married or has kids or has their career, and everybody's not living in the same area of the country. Everybody sort of goes their separate ways. So it is hard to keep up with everybody like that for that reason.
But sometimes the common denominator, or like the interests or the things that you guys have, as I said, in common, they're not always the same. So your mindset and your goals, they don't really match up.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That makes sense. So, okay, let's talk about Charm School. So when you
let's interview him.
He so wants to be in on this interview. What is your cat's name?
This is Vincent Van Gogh, because he's always on the go, but I call him Vinny.
That's really cute. I love it. So with Charm School, did you know that first of all, did you know that it was Sharon was going to be the host? And was this something that you wanted to do? Did you get talked into it? How did that all go down?
So before, I feel like you're making me tell all the real stuff.
That's kind of what happens on this podcast.
The producers asked me if I wanted a dating show, because I actually got divorced, moved out.
Okay,
so offered me a love show.
So you got offered your own show?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Oh, tell us about that.
I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing another dating show. This isn't The Bachelorette. Fuck no.
Oh, that would have been so awesome.
You have another one that's like, I love money or something cool or fun that's, competitive, I'll do that. But I do not want anything to do with dating.
Okay.
So they offered me Charm School, and they told me it was Sharon Osbourne, and I was super stoked. She's amazing.
She's awesome.
At our house.
Yeah, she's really, really great. I love her too, and I was super stoked when I found out it was her as well. In fact, I was going to say no to Charm School because I was just worn out from Rock of Love, and they didn't want to tell me who the head mistress was going to be. So I was like, well, I don't know then if you're not going to tell me who it is, and I don't know if I want to do it. And they're like, okay, we can totally tell you who it is. Just don't tell anybody. I'm like, you guys fold so easily. So when they told me it was Sharon, I was like, hell yeah. I was super stoked. So tell me about did you have a specific strategy going on to Charm School? Did you really want to win? Did you think you could win?
In all honesty, with Charm School, I wanted to win because I wanted to pay for school. I wanted to get my education and be the first one in my family to have their degree. So that was really important to me. So that's why I was there competing so much for the end prize. But they told me that I didn't need Charm School. I was ready charming. I was like, you don't know me.
That's a really funny reason to be eliminated. It's like, thank you.
They're like, can you cry at the end? I was like, that's sad. What's going on? I didn't win the money.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, if there's a reason to be eliminated, though, that's not too terrible.
It was fun though. Like, I think Charm School, I was more myself because I wasn't competing I'm emotionally handicapped when it comes to relationships, I feel. But when it comes to normal, like, girlfriend relationships and business relationships, I'm really good at, but my personal life, I suck at. Charm School was super fun for me. Like, I had a blast on it.
I actually really loved Charm School also. And I was really impressed with you. You and I felt developed a real friendship. And, as you know, I was always in this, evil Lacey character. And it was funny, though, because even though I wanted to continue doing evil Lacey and be consistent with that, there were certain girls that I genuinely couldn't help myself but liking. I genuinely liked you. I genuinely liked Brandy C. Obviously Brandy C, Brandy M, Destiny. So I was trying to find a way to balance like not being too cruel to you girls, because I didn't want to, if I like you, that's a whole different thing. And then I'm like, feel guilty and all that. So I'm like, how can I be my villain character, but not like hurt these girls that I genuinely like?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was interesting is with you, I could tell that you, especially when the cameras were not around, you were like analyzing me and you were like actively trying to figure me out. And it was, and that caught my attention. And I was like, oh shit, Kristy Joe's not buying this whole villain thing. And I thought that was really cool though. And you were so sweet to me and so nice to me. And I also remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but my mom passed away, and I actually talk about it quite a bit on the podcast now, but she passed away in December 2004, and she was like my best friend. I just like shut down for years after that. I couldn't face it. It was just way too painful, and she committed suicide. And I do talk about that now. I'm finally able to talk about that. But what was interesting is for some reason I was talking to you, I think, about the dog rescue stuff that I had been doing, and my mom came up, and somehow in the conversation, you figured out that was how she died. And then I feel like you had this like compassion towards me. Do you remember that moment, what I'm talking about?
I do. You're gonna make me tear up. Because I'm a mom, and like, I went through a depression, so I understand like when you get suicidal thoughts and you have to think about your kids. So for me, like, it's hard because I can imagine doing that or leaving my kids behind. So I know that must have been so painful for you. And that's why you do the dog rescues and why you do what you do. Don't make me cry.
I know. Well,
your mom was stunning, by the way.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Your mom was very stunning. You liked her.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to I don't want to get onto that because I want to keep this about you, but I just want to say that really meant a lot to me. And I was really impressed. You are definitely the opposite of like a narcissist, because I watch how you analyze people and I watch how you try to figure them out, but you definitely do it from a place of compassion. And so I just thought that was like really cool. And that's what made me go like, wow, I really like this girl. She's the real deal. She's a good friend. She's a good person, so that's what really made me go like, all right, I need to be friends with this girl.
Aw, no, I'm not, but I got that from you too. So that's why I never bought into your shit. I was like, oh, she's white. You're just like me. You and Brandy M. The two of you, I could not get one over on the two of you. I'm like, damn it. And then so finally at the end, I just started making friends with you girls. I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to remember, were you around when Heather and I had a falling out? Surprise, surprise. And which one?
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I'm a celebrity, bitch.
I'm an A-list celebrity. So
that was the most epic night ever.
You were there for that. The whole like, were you? God, the whole like Brandy.
I was still in the fat suit, and like
yes, that's right. Yes, you rocked that, by the way. And you know what you totally reminded me of? I was like obsessed with Friends. And did you ever watch Friends?
Monica?
Yes, you were so Monica when Courtney Cox had to do the fat suit and she just fucking owned it. And then you totally reminded me of that. And it was funny because when we were dressed up like in our ugly outfits, I felt
so comfortable.
What's that?
That was when I was the most comfortable, when nobody could see you. I was like, this is my time to shine.
Right, me too. Like, I felt like both you and I were like the only ones that had fun with that. And I was really shocked because a lot of the girls were like having full-blown breakdowns. And I'm like, I'm ugly. I can't be in the world like an ugly person. Like, that is really, do you remember that? How weird that was?
Yes. I'm like, this is amazing. This is like the best time because you can go out and nobody judges you. They just kind of have to be around you and accept you for who you are. It was great.
I thought so too. I had so much fun with it, but it really like freaked out a lot of the girls. Like, I would say most of the girls, I wasn't expecting that kind of reaction from them.
But maybe there's like something like some insecurities that came out.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, it was so wild. But I think that's why everybody got so drunk that night.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was like so out of control. So that was a wild fucking night.
That was our only night out.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. We were like, caged animals that finally were let loose.
There was music, there was alcohol, there was men. It was like, this is great.
Yeah, exactly.
Another one, please.
Right? So, so I think after all of that, when Heather and I like totally had our big blowout, that's sort of when I started navigating towards you and towards, Destiny and becoming like really closer to you girls. It was that period. And then I remember Heather was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I thought, no, we're all supposed to hate Lacey. You're doing it wrong.
Heather is a big personality, and she, like both of you both have really big hearts, and you're super sensitive. And whenever you bring a bunch of alpha females together, there's bound to be an explosion, and that's unfortunately what always happens between the two of you.
Yeah,
you're both very sensitive, you're both very sweet, but you're both very dominant.
Plates are gonna fly. Yeah. So, would you say that you had more fun on Charm School than you did on Rock of Love? That was of the two, that would be your pick as Charm School?
Yes.
Yeah. So
there was no competition between men. Like,
yeah.
I suck at relationships.
Well, everybody does until they get into the right one. Sometimes it just takes going through a few shitty ones to get there. Did you get asked to do I Love Money?
No. I think I was pregnant with the twins.
Oh, okay. That would be a whole other kind of show.
Big Brother offered me show after I had the twins. That was like 24 hours. Hell no.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And then there was a money grab show or something on ABC. Wipeout.
Oh,
They asked me to go on Wipeout Destiny, I think.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So would you go back to TV if you had the chance?
So I did a pilot recently, and it kind of brought back all of those feelings of anxiety, not having your privacy, not being able to go in public. People kind of look at you funny. So I don't know if I'd want that again, because I enjoyed doing the actual, filming and doing the shows, but the response and getting all the attention, that's not why I did it.
Yeah, so it's an adjustment.
It was really hard for me.
Yeah, that alone is a major adjustment for sure. Like, you go out and everybody knows who you are and saying your name, and it's pretty wild. What was your experience like after the shows aired?
I hid in my house for like 2 months because I couldn't go to Starbucks without people wanting to just take a picture. I'm like, wait, I'm like an F-list celebrity.
I know. I'm like
I'm an A-list bitch. No, I don't know. I didn't know how. I wasn't expecting the following that we got from that show. It was kind of bizarre. It's kind of like a cult following.
It was really.
I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it was really strange. It was definitely very much an adjustment. It was really strange because, as you said, like, I don't. I'm a T-list celebrity at best on my good days, Usually I'm more like the U's and the V's. I'm a V-list celebrity.
Go to sleep.
Yeah, so it's right, we don't think of ourselves as like celebrities, and so it is really weird when you're out and about and people like, shout your name, and it's a strange, But
it's cool and it's fun. I mean, we got to do a lot of appearances and we got some really great experiences out of it. But I just didn't expect it to blow up the way it did. And the response was great. The fans are amazing. But it's just like when you're already shy and you have anxiety around people, and you just kind of want to like go into a shell and hide.
I remember witnessing somebody did something really fucked up to you. I remember. So for me personally, it's funny because doing this like villain character, I feel helped me in ways that I wouldn't have even guessed it was going to. And one of the ways that helped me is like no one really fucks with me, which is kind of nice. But I remember you and I we were in Las Vegas together, and we were just like partying, and we were having a great time. And we were in one of the casinos at a bar, and we were just drinking and catching up and stuff like that. And some guy came up to you and was like totally hitting on you. And you turned him down really politely, like you were not being shitty about it at all, but you just like very gently turned him down, and he was like just being a fucking drunk asshole. And then so you turned around, we were just sitting on a stool, and you had these like low rider jeans, and you're sitting on a stool, and somehow he got like a whole bunch of ice in like a giant cup, and he poured ice down your jeans. Do you remember?
You know the ice buckets, the huge ice buckets with all the drinks in them? So he took all the vodka out and he threw the ice bucket on me and Catherine all at once. And we were soaked from head to toe because we wouldn't take a drink from him and we wouldn't go hang out. I'm like,
that was crazy. I remember I was sitting next to you when it happened. That was fucking wild. And I think like, didn't a security come and like grab him and toss him out or something happened? Yeah.
They took his picture.
That was
so
crazy.
he could never come back.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So it was like so much fun. It was me. It was myself, you, Destiny, Catherine, and Jessica. Wasn't it all 5 of us that we went out that night?
Yes, that was really fun. That was like one of my favorite nights ever. I think we ended up at a strip club and we were just like annihilated. And then I remember somebody was talking about how Mike Tyson was supposed to be showing up. And I was like, I feel like I'm in like a movie right now of like, what's the movie?
Hangover.
I feel like I'm in the Hangover right now. I'm like literally like everybody's fucked up. We're at a strip club. Mike Tyson's on his way, and some asshole is pouring ice down Kristy Joe's jeans. I'm like, what's happening right now?
No, it was the full bucket. No, but I remember having to get on the flight the next day, and my head was just pounding. I was still drunk, and I'm like, "Where's my sunglasses?" And luckily, Catherine had like a whole array of sunglasses. Like, can I borrow those? And I remember walking through the airport thinking everybody knows.
That was an insane trip. And that was so much fun though. That was like by far my favorite like hosting night, like going out night with the Rock of Love girls. That was like by far my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, I just looked at the clock and I realized that our time is up and I feel like we still have so much more to talk about. But you're in Arizona and I'm in Las Vegas. So I think that you should try to come to me. Yes. And Las Vegas night. Yeah, I feel like we could like do this for hours. But is there anything else before I let you go that you want to tell everybody or how can they find you on social media or what would you like to say?
Not really too much on social media, and that's on purpose. I'm very private, but I'm super thankful for everybody who, watched the show and who was supportive of us. And we're real people. And love all you guys.
Hey, you're so sweet. Yeah, it took you like a month to approve me. I sent you a request.
Well,
I'm just giving you shit. I was like, Kristy Joe won't approve me more.
No, it's like I have my personal page and then I kind of have my Kristy Joe page.
I know, I'm just teasing you. It's what
the two personalities.
Yeah.
Crazy Kristy Joe.
I love it. Well, you look fantastic and I'm so glad that you're doing great with your family and you're just kicking ass at life as you always do. And it's nice to catch up with you.
Ditto. Well, we'll get together soon. Yes. Maybe I'll come back to Las Vegas. We'll do this again.
Yes, we should.
Some more stories.
I would love that. Well, take care, girl, and I will talk to you very soon. I'll reach out to you in the next week or so.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good night.
You too, girl. Bye.
Bye.